If you're like me, sometimes you just have to grit your teeth and get after it. Today, we're back on the Stitches Challenger. We spent time in our last episode getting those upper control arms modified to use on the Challenger because they were cheap parts imported from the Far East. Trying to be politically correct here. Anyway, those are all done and bolted on the car and good, but we need to take them back off again because today we're going to be working on the front inner fender wells, getting them ready to finally bolt the suspension on the car. It's another step forward here on the Stitches Challenger. Stick around. I'm Mike, and you're watching My Car's Shop. If you're like me, your work week is really busy and crazy. I spend a lot of time on the road, and I still try to do things like filming Talk About Tuesdays and editing video late in the afternoon and in the evenings after the workday's done. But it's the weekend, and I would much rather be just laying in bed watching TV. But if we're going to move forward on projects, we got to get after it. So, one of the things you'll discover is as you're putting projects together is there's a lot of bolting things on and taking them off again. And that's what we're doing, is taking things off again, because now that we know they fit and everything works, well, that's what we got to do. Whoop, whoop. Oh, they're stuck. Hopefully this is the last time we have to take them off. With your cam bolts, I always put them back together again, because there we go. One down. Get the other side done. I won't bore you with that, but I am going to put my cam bolts through the control arm. Best place to keep them. You'll notice the shop is pretty much of a train wreck right now, especially the welding bench area. I've intentionally kind of left things the way they are. I dropped one of the washers for the control arm under the bench, and I had to pull everything out. I finally found it after looking for a half an hour with various expletives included in the process. But I decided that I wasn't going to put everything back under there until I actually went through and just didn't throw things back under, but kind of sorted it all out. So I purposely left it out to drive myself crazy, because I'm going to get to that later today. Anyway, not what you're here for, but just going to not apologize for, but explain the mess. Apparently I cleaned up the bottom of the rail over there, but I didn't clean it up here, including not taking off what's left of this little splash shield. So I need to get that off of there and then get this cleaned up and get some primer on it, because my goal today is to get both fender wells painted so I literally can start putting the front suspension components on permanently. I see we've got a piece of a brake line here also that needs to come off. We also have a busticated suspension stop bolt there. I'm going to get that off of there as well. So we got a little cleanup to do here, so let's get that done so that we can move further forward on the exciting part of one more piece of this car being closer to completion. So there we go, that cleaned up nice. Everything there is ready. Missed one spot. I got to make the decision if I'm going to do this with the bed liner or just with satin black. I'm leaning towards just the satin black. We'll see. Yeah, we'll have to see. But so yeah, this one's all set now. That's got to dry, obviously. So I'm going to flip the car over and get the other side. There's a spot up in there I need to get cleaned up a little bit and so forth. So we'll get that done, and hopefully things will be dry enough by then, and I'll have made a decision on where I'm going next. You'll notice that I'm not doing anything on the inside of the frame rail or up. I'm going to deal with that after the car's back on the ground. When I do the firewall and the fender wells, that kind of stuff. So I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to break it down into what has to happen to get the K-frame in. That doesn't mean that I won't change my mind on that, but that's not my focus today. I'm trying to break it down into little bite-sized pieces to continually see progress forward on the project. That's what MKS is all about. So I've decided, I'm just wiping this down with Crepsol right now to get ready to spray it, but I've decided to go ahead and do this with Rattle can for a couple of reasons. There are a lot of spots on here that need repair, like the top up here. I'm going to have to replace all of that. There's a little bitty pinhole in here. Down in here, there's a lot of work to be done. And I don't see any point in getting out the spray gun and going hot and heavy with spray gun satin black when I can just rattle can this and it will work just fine. I mean, I've many cars here on the property. The 47 Ford has just a lot of rattle cans satin black. It's been that way for almost 20 years on some of it. Because I bought that car in 2007 and started working on it. So at least 15 years. The GTS I did back in, I bought that car in 1994 and started doing the work on it. A lot of it's just rattle can black, and that's 30 plus years later and it's still fine. So don't let anybody diss you on rattle can. As I've said ad nauseum here on the channel, rattle can paint is fine as long as you don't make the common mistakes. The biggest mistake people make is they don't put it on wet enough so it sticks and then it peels off. All paint has to be put on nice and wet to adhere. If it's too dry, it won't stick. So anyway, so I decided that, and then later it'll be easy enough to touch it up once I get these other things done. My goal here is to get this thing off of the rotisserie, and yes, there's work that needs to be done in the back and so forth, but I still don't have the money to buy argon for my welder. Can you relate to that? So I'm doing what I can with what I have. That's the whole point of the penny-wise approach, the little bite approach. It's not being cheap, it's being frugal, and it's being practical. So I have rattle cans of satin black here that a channel viewer donated me a case of a while ago. I have just a couple of those left, so I'm going to go ahead and use what I've got to get this done. That way I can get the suspension on, and later on, if I want, I can just mask off the suspension components and hit it with bed liner or hit it with heavier paint if I want. But like I said, I got plenty of cars here that's all I've done is and spray it on. So yeah, I remember we had an ashtray on the channel whom I finally just banned from the channel. And he was always, he had no clue who I was or what I do. He said he had watched all kinds of my videos, and if he had, he wouldn't have been talking so ignorantly. And he was like, why don't you just go to Harbor Freight and buy yourself a spray gun and do it right? I'm a painter, dude. I have at least eight spray guns over there. It's not that I don't have the stuff. I'm always looking for the simplest thing to do, for the easiest way to do things that still isn't wrong, because remember the motto around here is make it safe, make it done, and have fun. And I'm using my experience. I've been doing this a long time, and I know there's all kinds of stuff people say you shouldn't do. I've been doing it for years, and it works just fine as long as you know the philosophizing behind it. So anyway, I'm going to stop philosophizing and wipe this down one more time, and then let's get this one sprayed. have a partial can of Krylon truck bed coating from another project. I wanted to try this anyway, so I'm going to put it on this part because this part gets beat with rocks and stuff. That actually has a very nice texture, almost more texture than the Rust-Oleum. Yes, it does. I like that a lot. I'm going to have to reconsider my undercar approach here. I don't know what this stuff costs per can, but I like it. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, let's do the other side. There we go. It's looking good. And I do believe that this Krylon has more texture than the Rust-Oleum that we used. We didn't put it on the frame, or did we? Yeah, I guess we did. But you can see it just doesn't have quite the texture. So, maybe we need to reconsider what we're doing down here and use that Krylon. I'll have to look at the price. I'm not unhappy with this, but it didn't blend things together quite as much as I wanted down here. So, you know, it is what it is, but that's the look I was looking for right there. So since we opted not to go with lizard skin, that was kind of the direction I wanted to go. But it is what it is, you know. But the nice thing about these rattle cans things is they're easy to touch up, and that's one of the reasons I like them. Plus, you know, just the price of paint in general is so bloody expensive these days. So, oh, hello. One of the littles and one of the middles. They are becoming shop cats. Unfortunately, Chip and Little Gray both died. They're gone. They got eaten or something. I'm not sure. But so I don't have shoulder cats anymore. I've tried it with these little ones here, and they don't like to get up on my shoulders. But it's all right. They're still like hanging around the shop. So cool. Well, I think this has come quite a ways since we got it fresh out of the junkyard. It's looking good. Yeah, we're going to start cleaning up the K-frame. Probably in our next episode, I need to get some stuff ordered. It's going to be a challenge financially, but we'll figure it out, I hope. But I want to put polyurethane lower control arm bushings in it, and it needs lower control arm bushings. They're not that much more expensive. I really thought about just buying bulk polyurethane. It has to be 80 durometer or harder to be machinable. And I really thought about buying it and machining up my own lower control arm bushings. I think that would be a fun project. I think a 1 foot stick of 80 durometer poly is about the same price as a pair of lower control arm bushings. I could make a lot more stuff out of that if I did that, but I don't know what other stuff I need, so it would be buy it and then it would go into stock in the shop. I've got a lot of nylon and Deleron and stuff like that, but I don't have any machinable poly here. But I'm trying to think what other pieces we would need polyurethane. Strut rod bushings would need to be, probably should be polyurethane. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other bushings that would need to be. So I'll do some research and some pricing, and probably start walking the ditches looking for returnable bottles so I can buy argon and poly. But this is the real world, guys. I'm telling you, this is the real world. We don't always have the funds that we need, and it's just a reality. That's why we do things here in my car shop, shoestring, low budget, because it's real. I'm not putting this on. I really don't I haven't had any income in 3 years. So I'm just selling stuff and doing what I can to get my bills paid. Just squeaking by as best as I can. Thank God my wife is extremely patient and understanding with what I'm going through. So we aren't just putting this on for a show. This is a real shop. And I share this with you to say, don't let a lack of finance stop you. You don't have to spend money to do projects like this. So, all right, that's going to do it for this one. Like, share, subscribe. There's merchandise down there in the comments. Go check that out. We have channel memberships for as little as $5 a month. Check that out as well. I appreciate you being here, and we'll catch you on the next one. And don't forget, because it's important. Whoa.